very end. I hate the kind of wear a tie. Try that life but say goodbye. Not always polite. Work can never be fun. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Unprofessional. I'm your host, Webby. Coughing halfway through that was Rob.
Hey, everybody.
And we also got Devin.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's me.
And we got special guest Apple back.
Hello.
So, Apple, you're joining us because you recommended this one and we decided to choose it.
Yeah.
This week we're going to be speaking about a series of YouTube videos called the Mandela Catalogue.
Got it.
Created by Alex Kister, an 18-year-old student from Hubertus, Wisconsin.
Kister, I barely know her.
Well, too bad Donnie's not on this episode. This guy's from Wisconsin. He might know where the damn cheese is.
You're right, though.
Little inside joke for all you guys out there. Well, this was a set of videos for sure. I did not know this until doing just a very, very brief little stint of research after watching the videos. But these were essentially inspired by the quarantine from the COVID outbreak and essentially being locked up. And Alex wanted to focus on losing that particular sense of security while doing this project. Man, I don't even know where or how to begin describing this set of videos.
They kind of focus around like an alternate timeline where in, I think it was the 70s or 80s, I think it was the 80s, they like mention a date where these beings that they end up referring to as alters, like, or alternates, are in the world, and there's like a slight, I would call it biblical undertones, if they're not implying, in my opinion, because there's a lot of like deriving your own meaning from this because it's not like a set whatever. I believe that the creatures aren't actually biblical, but they're preying on people's philosophical and religious natures to like make them feel fear or like drive them to insanity. But the creatures take on the form of people, and sometimes they mimic it great, and sometimes they look a little fucked up, where their like extremities are a little long or their faces look a little warped, or like, and it's just like that's the unreality of it, which has been a term people use for like AI generation and stuff like that. I feel like is really hits that uncanny valley sometimes for me, or like I don't know. I don't know if that described it. I feel like
Yeah, like I read a couple different articles, and this one seems to be the most lengthy one. Like, I was trying to find a Wikipedia on it, but there was one that it was just like, yeah, it was Mandela Catalogue was created by Alex Kister, and feel free to add to it. And then it was just that was the end of it. But I did find a GQ article, and from this GQ article, it says each Mandela installment is presented as an instructional video for the citizens of the namesake Mandela County, who are being menaced by a supernatural threat. Viewers gradually piece together the plot for themselves. Details start to add up. Children are disappearing. The cause seems to be alternates or doppelgangers. These creatures look just like you or a loved one. They can't hurt you directly, but they know exactly what to say to get you to hurt yourself. Oh, and they can manipulate TV and radio, as we established with that one creepy one on the TV all the time.
Yeah.
It goes on to say
The only part I disagree with on that is if they can't hurt you directly, how are they making children disappear?
Well,
I feel like they get sucked into the TV or something.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That seems directly harmful to be sucked into the TV.
I mean, I don't know.
But it doesn't, I will say though, it doesn't seem like they are directly harming adults. It seems like they're driving adults to insanity. And I don't know if like some part of me wonders if their children actually are gone, or like what happens there, or like maybe children are far more susceptible. You know, they say, oh, kids can see ghosts, kids can whatever. Whether or not you believe in ghosts, that's like a very common thing, is like kids see things we don't. And maybe that is some of it, is like the kids are susceptible to something that the adults aren't. But
yeah, the article continues with Kister discussing the themes. Fear of an intruder, fear of the dark, fear of yourself, as universal childhood phobias resurfaced by the pandemic. And he's quoted with saying, "When I was young, I felt like the thing that would scare me most was not a typical boogeyman style monster," he said, "but just coming home, coming to your room, and seeing yourself there instead."
yeah.
So these videos, when you're watching them, there's a lot of different type of I wouldn't call them scary. They're, if anything, like slightly unnerving sound effects. And like, I don't even know how to describe the sound effects. Not even just like not even the effects of like the TV turning on and hearing the white noise, but like just the oddball like audio frequencies that they use in the interim. It's a lot of still frame pictures.
Hello.
And Devin received a phone call. But like, for instance, it would show like, you know, a video camera shooting like a hallway, and then it would cut, and then it would cut back to that same video camera shooting the same hallway. Then it would cut, then it would come back, and the hallway would be dark, but you'd have enough light in the foreground to know that it's still that hallway. And then it would cut, and then it would come back, and then there'd be like a set of glowing dots, like up near the ceiling or something, you know, representing eyes. And then it would cut, and then it would go back to normal all over again. And it's a lot of these types of things. I will say, I was going into this one a lot more worried that I was going to be genuinely frightened by the end of it. Like I don't handle certain things very well. Um, it wasn't necessarily jump scary, which is my worst. That's the worst. That's the worst culprit for me.
Yeah,
Loud,
I don't
sudden
enjoy
noises, or
jump scares
yeah.
that much personally.
I will say that the very, very end of it just to me it was just like I'm not comparing it to it, but I'm comparing
Oh yeah.
the fear that it brought to me and when. But it was just like that the Blair Witch Project for me. I watched the entire Blair Witch Project movie. I thought it was super boring the entire time until the very last 30 seconds of the film. And for whatever reason, it was such a small thing, and you didn't see anything creepy or anything like that, but it just really freaked me out. And in this, right at the end, you're in a dark hallway and you see something come down from the ceiling, and then it just gets progressively closer to the camera, and that freaked me out.
For me, I think the reason I don't because I when I think about it, like it doesn't bother me, but it gave there was many times even during rewatches because I'd seen this previously, which is why I recommended it. It just would give me goosebumps. It would just give me like chills because it was more like what my brain could conjure up with this information as
Right.
opposed to necessarily the things that were being shown to me. Like it's a great story and that's what I find really it's like the concept because I can totally picture like the things like at one point, for example, a kid is like telling a story within the thing about how his dad forgot to tuck him in. And so he wanted to go down, he wanted to like go to his parents' room basically, but he had to go down the stairs and go past this dark room that he found really scary. And there was a man in the corner in the room just staring at him.
Yeah.
And like that concept because as a kid I don't ever think I really had sleep paralysis but like I know a lot about it and like there were definitely I had like repetitive dreams about like being locked in a car and I couldn't see what was happening like the car was moving but I couldn't see anyone in the driver's seat like little things like that like the concept of something fucking with you or like seeing yourself but fucked up or just seeing another person but their face is warped in a way that's not like oh they got in an accident and their skin's like no like genuinely it shouldn't be able
Just
to do
like
that
elongated or yeah.
yeah no it just that idea of like seeing that in my room fucks with me.
And see, I will say that that's kind of like I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to fear stuff. Is if something manages to grab a hook in my brain will run with it. And I'll start generating all these own scenarios in my own head after watching whatever it was that creeped me out, even the slightest. And my own imagination will just scare the crap out of me forever. Like I've brought this up before, the movie 13 Ghosts. There was a scene where you saw the suicide victim ghost. It was the lady in the bathtub, and she was super pale except for right around her eyes. Her eyes were very dark, and like her eyes themselves looked, if I remember correctly, almost black, like the demons from Supernatural. And she just like her head snapped and just looked up at the guy. And so for the longest time, whenever I was using the restroom at my house, I would just look to the left at the bathtub, and I would just see that image. And I was like, nope, okay, I'm done. Another one that really stuck with me for the longest time is, oddly enough, the bedroom that I sleep in now.
Is it the prospector?
No. Growing up when I was a little kid, that used to be my parents' room. Okay. So when you would walk in, the bed would be right there, and like the head of the bed would be to the left underneath the window. So it made kind of a U shape out of the room, or like a backwards C, where you could walk around the bed. Well, I don't remember who was watching it at the time. Maybe my mom was watching it or somebody else, but they were watching, I believe it was Pet Sematary. And this is the reason why I will never watch Pet Sematary ever again. There is a scene where the boy in Pet Sematary opens up the room, or opens up a door to a bedroom, and It was laid out almost exactly like my parents' room, with the bed right where it was. And on the other side of the bed, in a rocking chair, which my mom also had, there was just this old lady. And she was just rocking back and forth. And she just slowly kind of turned her head to look at the boy in the doorway. And she got up and sprinted at the boy, like
Ugh.
around the bed, like supernaturally fast. And like, so every time I even approached my parents' bedroom, I just saw that. And I was like, nope,
Mm,
I'm good.
that's
So
fair.
it's like my own mind will grasp onto some of these concepts that, I know it's not there and whatever, but my brain really makes me want to see it, and it just re-frightens me all over again. So, like, if I'm ever in a dark hallway, yeah, I'm probably going to think about this Mandela Catalogue thing and see things slowly dropping down from the ceiling. Actually, probably even worse, if I'm in a completely dark hallway, I'm just going to hear the fucking pitter-patter of the footsteps running up to me. That was kind of
Yeah.
unnerving. um,
Yeah, they played with choral music a lot, like where you just hear like a person, like an opera song, just kind of like singing, kind of slow, a little like that. I don't know why that fucks with me a lot too.
yeah, almost like a record player, but somebody's holding
Uh-huh.
their finger down on it to slow it down on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Rob, what did you think about this when we watched it?
I mean, I feel like younger people would not like understand because like it's very VHS-y tape, most of it. And like if you've never seen one, you would be like, why is this quality so crappy? But it's like, yeah, that's what VHS used to look like.
I will say analog horror is a genre that is very popular right now. So I'm not saying they wouldn't understand it, but it is, even though they might not have any firsthand experience understanding why it looks that way and like seeing it and having any memories tied to it,
Mhm.
that stylistic choice is very like a lot of indie horror games are using it right
See,
now.
that's even better, because if any kids ever came to your house, you could put a VHS tape in a VCR, and when they'd start seeing like the poor quality and the squiggly lines, they'd be like, "Oh hell no, we're in a horror movie
Just-
right now, ain't we?" They're just like deeply frightened of VHS tape quality.
Sorry, keep
Um,
going, Rob.
But yeah, but like, so that's like when you're watching it, you're like, oh yeah, this is true. This is how VHS used to look.
Mhm.
So the like the little subtle like changes where they're uh like where it's like normal and then for a minute it's like weird or whatever. It's a little unnerving. But like Webby said, I wasn't really frightened. Like nothing really bothered me until the end when the cop is like in that a hallway at the end and the thing comes out of the ceiling that has no head at first and then the head like is around the back and it like comes up. Yeah. That I was like, okay. Now I'm a little freaked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, and for frame of reference, for any of you who have seen the Blair Witch Project, I think they made a sequel. I'm just talking about the original one. The whole movie was completely boring to me until the very, very end of the movie, where they found their missing friend, or one of them, and he was just standing and facing a corner, back to the group. That's it. Then they ended the movie. That freaked me out. I don't know why. So,
Hey, shit's supposed to freak you out.
Devin, if you are able to, what did you think
What's
about
up?
the Mandela Catalogue?
I mean, I had seen it before. It's been a while. I will say that. But yeah, I mean, it's good. It was as good the second time as it was the first time. Didn't have quite the like effect on me the second time.
The impact, yeah.
The impact and the effect of me the second time around. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of analog horror in general. Anyway, that's why I kind of had also recommended the back rooms.
Oh, the back rooms.
Yeah,
Those are
like I
fun.
do love. Yeah, the back rooms are fun. I'm a fan of analog horror in general and just very other things. All in that genre. I like all horror for the most part. Now,
So what are some of the the parts of this that you I guess appreciated the most as being a fan of horror, or that you thought, like, what was the scariest part
The
of
biggest thing about
this?
this for me is just the tone of it. I don't think necessarily there's any one part that's like scary. It just does a really good job of like setting a unsettling tone throughout the entirety of the like of the shorts. I don't think it. I can't really point to like one thing and be like, oh, this is it right here. But I think the overall, like, it just creates a mood and a tone where if you're like watching it at 2 a.m. in a dark room, it, even without doing that, like, it still kind of gives you that. But like with the full effect, watch it at 2 o'clock in a dark room, and it
Okay.
just creates this really unsettling like atmosphere that gets you like second guessing everything. You know what I mean?
Well, speaking of that, it's still in that CQ or GQ article. It goes on to say that shooting in his own childhood home, Kister takes nondescript features, a hallway, a flight of stairs, and makes them evoke true discomfort. Shots hold just long enough to make you wonder if there's something in the corner, and then they put in parentheses, there is. Adding to the sense of isolation, there's no on-screen cast. Characters are portrayed through still images and voiceover. Friends occasionally contributed dialogue. That said, Kister did need someone to play the monster on the other side of his bedroom door for the climactic scene. He offered the role to his mom, who turned in a performance that, after some voice manipulation, is quite haunting.
You want to know? Oh, go ahead.
That was his mom who
I love that.
was asking him to come open the door, which I do think was kind of also pretty creepy.
You want to know what fucks me up the most? And it fucks me up so much that I forgot it wasn't a part of his YouTube channel. So just like with the Backrooms, which crash course for y'all who don't know about the Backrooms, it's essentially, it takes the idea of like clipping out of reality and into this like, you like clip through reality and you end up in this place that just looks like it's just fucking endless. It looks like kind of like an office space. There's no like cubicles, but it's got that kind of signature ceiling. It's all yellow tone. There's columns. You can just keep going forever. Basically, you're fucking lost in it, and eventually you'll go insane. But so there's a lot of video games that have come from these art pieces, which I consider them to be art pieces personally. And so there's video games about the Mandela Catalogue, and one of the ones that fucked me up the most was a video of this guy. He's laying on his ground, and he's just trying to keep still, but he's recording down the hallway, and he says, it's in my mother's room. And then you hear like the voice that's so distorted. It's like, come help me. I'm so scared. And it's like the way that it says it, because the video game does it way better. It's like the fact that it's like trying to pull you in by like using these keywords that it knows, but it says it that just the tone doesn't sound right. And it like just sounds just slightly off. Like that really fucks me up. And then also, and this is just a personal thing, I actually have a fear response to like the National Weather Service alerts that you get whenever like severe weather's about to happen.
Yeah, so like at the beginning of this catalog thing when they played it.
Yeah, so like, because to me that strictly meant, because I grew up in Tornado Alley, that meant a tornado was coming. That scared me. So hearing that didn't equal, oh, like, I need to know that like that meant I was going to get, like, I was scared immediately. So hearing that like sound in them, like playing with that whole national alert, hey, government's trying to warn you that there's this weird fucking thing. And then it's like that same kind of voice that they use. Like he just did a really good job, like recreating that, honestly. And that just scared me because I'm already afraid of that.
I will say, when asked, Alex, when the reporter or the writer of this article asked Alex what tools he used for the project, he held up his iPhone 11. Though he's gathered a strong following with his current approach, he has his sights set on more ambitious projects. He quotes, "I'm trying to reach people on a bit of a broader spectrum," he said. "I want to go beyond mindless jump scares and just cause a physiological reaction rather than a psychological one." Then it goes on to say there are a few quote-unquote jump scares in the Mandela Catalogue, something that's a typical of the genre. It exists on YouTube, termed analog horror, like you brought up earlier. The genre has a distinct VHS aesthetic, warm colors and nostalgic fonts, violently interrupted by static and distortion, which always got worse the more you recorded over a tape. And supernatural entities. All of them are presented as found footage, think the Blair Witch or Cloverfield. For that reason, analog horror is best encountered via the YouTube recommendation algorithm late at night, by yourself, just before bed, not really knowing what the hell you're looking at. Alex says the genre-defining titles like Chris Straub's Local 58 and Martin Wall's The Walton Files inspired the Mandela
fucking
Catalogue.
Walton Files. Any
that
would have been fucky.
Like any online community, analog horror has its share of critics. Kister embraces their feedback. When a viral tweet made fun of his project's success, he responded by making a full-blown parody of his own videos, including a step-by-step guide on how to make his monsters. You toss a bunch of iPhone effects on a photo of something making stupid faces. Okay. That's the end of that article. So,
yeah, if you've seen the Mandela Catalogue or you want to watch it, and you go watch it first, but I do recommend going into some of Matt Pat's, aka like Game Theory, his like breakdowns of it, because it, I personally like theorizing and stuff, and I feel like sometimes it's fun to like see what someone else saw when they were watching it, and you're like, oh, I didn't notice that detail, or oh, this, that, and the other thing. And that's at least just how I get enjoyment out of things, is like also through watching that kind of stuff.
Yep. I would say this is not something that I will ever watch late at night in the dark in my room alone. So
it's a good idea.
Well, what else do you guys have to say about the Mandela Catalogue? How often does he release these? Like, is he still currently making them? Yeah.
There's not a schedule, but I mean, because I think it's a creative passion project.
Right.
I don't think it's done, but because I hadn't seen Volume 3 whenever it was, like, whenever I didn't even know that was out whenever I recommended it to you guys. So I got to watch that with fresh eyes like you guys did.
And that's the one that had the guy dropping from the ceiling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love the fact that like halfway through I was like, I don't really find this scary. Now if they put something on the screen that actually moved, I'd probably reconsider, and then like that happened. I was just like, yeah, okay. Come on now. It's like they heard me.
Yeah, my brain, and I feel like this is true with like most things, my brain can enhance something that if I'm given a good groundwork, my brain will take it and run with it and make it more scary. Not with all things. It's stuff like that. Cause like watching like horror video games, for example, like watching someone play Resident Evil. I don't like go home and like think about that kind of thing. But like his was a story to like read and not like to consume. Like the backrooms, that shit. Dude, the Walton Files. Sorry. I like forgot that existed until you mentioned it, and I just brought all my vivid memories back. That one's fucking crazy.
Matilda.
That one has a lot more visuals. Is Tilly being bad?
She's being mouthy. She's sprouting her Nazi propaganda yet again. All over the place. So what is the Walton Files?
Yeah. It vaguely reminds me of like Five Nights at Freddy's, but you're like, you found all these old training VHSs for a company that doesn't exist anymore, and you like watch through them, But there was like a murder that happened amongst all of them. And so there's occasionally these like distorted images and like you see people's faces. And then at one point they find an old vault where all the stuff got put essentially. And you watch someone's video of him like walking through the forest up to this vault. And it's VHS quality, but it's someone like, and this whole thing is about like it's like there's a whole murder involved and like just all sorts of shit. I feel like I can't describe it that well because I haven't watched it enough recently to be able to be like, here's an in-depth explanation about it. But
That's fair.
I would say it has way more visuals than the Mandela Catalogue does, because that are a little more disturbing. Although I get a little more disturbed by like, it doesn't have to be moving for me to be fucked up by it, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of like what Devin said was like the Mandela Catalogue did very well at like just kind of setting an eerie tone, like through sound effects or music or just, still pictures. What is this that you just put in there, Devin?
Like a 5-6 minute video. It kind of reminded me when she was talking about the Walton Files. It reminded me of this. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Walton Files, a little bit different. Where it's like a ad for it's called Star Park. It's an ad for a theme park that doesn't exist, but it's like as the ad goes on, things get progressively more strange and unsettling.
It's a good genre. If you like, I don't know, just look into analog horror if you are a horror fan, because I think it's a fun genre. There's a lot of video games that are analog horror that like to also play into, whenever it's like a video game that's analog horror, if it's not a found footage video game, it's normally like PlayStation level polygon graphics where it's got like triangle titties kind of thing. Like, but
Yeah,
those
Tomb Raider.
full of graphics. Yes, that is exactly what I was referencing. But yeah, so it goes for that really like low poly count video game style, like on purpose. Normally with some grainy overtones as well. But it's a developing genre that I really enjoy, honestly.
All right. Well, anybody else have anything else to say about analog horror or the Mandela Catalogue? Rob, Devin, any others that you know of that you would recommend?
Like I said, I mean, the Backrooms is always good.
Somebody have a cat?
I was a small child.
Oh, sounded like a cat to me.
I was a small child. Let's see.
I will say,
he's
now that
looking.
you referenced what those backroom videos or whatever,
Mhm.
I do recall Smosh making a couple of those.
Yes. They had a Backrooms video recently.
Local 58, it's pretty good for
Mhm.
analog horror.
I don't know if you fully count it as analog horror, but Siren Head, that one's for me, that also plays into the whole
It's like
sound.
really cool. I do love Siren Head. It just sucks that like the Siren Head creator like kind of like grew to hate his own creation.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
He like grew to hate his own creation, and basically, so it's like there's like a Siren Head movie at one point to talk about, but like all of it shut down because he grew to like hate his own creation and shit. And he's just like, I give permission to nobody to do anything with Siren Head anymore.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Siren Head was like this. It had, as the name implies, sirens on his head, and it would play like the sound of like, like a raid siren or like a tornado siren, and he'd be taller. He was tall and lanky, and he looked kind of like a pole, but he had arms, and it was just the images that you can find of it is him like, yeah, what Devin just sent. You'd just see him climb over a fucking building or through some trees, and like you'd hear his siren, and like it was. I thought it was fucked up, man.
Yeah,
Theme's
Siren
fucked up.
I like Siren. He's cool.
Yeah.
He's just misunderstood.
Misunderstood. Poor boy.
People thinks he wants to. He's yelling out in anger. He's yelling out in pain. He's misunderstood. He is blaring his siren head in pain, and he just needs someone to love him.
I just need somebody to love.
Just like Slender Man, they just kept turning down his application. He was too thin to play Mall Santa, so now he just kidnaps children. If only they let him play Mall Santa, we wouldn't have. There would have been no There would have been no Slender Man.
Jesus, that second one's even more unnerving.
Yeah.
Visual media for the audio podcast. It wouldn't be SU without.
It wouldn't be. And Star Park's going to be the one you're going to have the weapons on.
Tilly, oi!
Oi! Oi!
I can say that too. Oi!
All right.
God, it would have been such a good movie.
It would have been.
I wouldn't have watched it. I don't like horror movies, but I like horror games.
I would have made Webby watch it. Like, Webby, we're watching this. She's like, no. Like, Webby.
If it was October, I wouldn't have had a choice.
Like, Webby. I know. It would have been like June.
Then I probably would have protested.
Also, you would have protested, and I would have been like, Webby, it's fine.
I already know that next month you're going to end up having me watch that movie that we didn't watch last year with the Thanksgiving turkey.
Oh, Thanksgiving? 1 and Thanksgiving 3?
Yeah, the one that skipped over the sequel.
Thanksgiving 1 and Thanksgiving 3. Thanksgiving is a fantastic movie. Oh my god!
You know what? I made you watch Evil Bong or whatever it was, and I also watched. I made you watch Velocipaster with me, so I'll watch Evil Killer.
Honestly, out of all the things you just named, the only thing that you didn't name the one thing I hated that you made me watch.
Listen, Life After Beth was a phenomenal movie, and
Life After Beth was a terrible movie.
The worst part about Life After Beth was
the beginning to the end.
Smooth jazz, which they also played from the beginning to the end.
So it was terrible from beginning to end. Okay, I'm glad we can reach this agreement.
Aubrey Plaza, if you're listening, which I know you're not, I loved you in Life After Beth.
I mean, I love you too, Aubrey Plaza. I just don't.
You know, okay, what's that show the Parks and Rec show? I just read somewhere that she got the role on that show. Have any of you ever seen that show, Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec, yeah, I've seen Parks and Rec.
No, I mean I know of it, but I've never actually watched it.
Okay. I watched an episode and then realized it's not for me. Not because it's not a good show, but because humor that involves self-embarrassment, like cringe and stuff. Like, not to use the word cringe poorly, but similar humor to The Office. It makes me. I have like a physical reaction to that kind of humor because I get a lot of secondhand embarrassment from it.
Gotcha. All right. I read an article that Aubrey Plaza got her role on that job because one of the people in charge of casting or something came up to the director after going out to just get something for lunch one day, and he comes up and he says, "Dude, I just met this ridiculously uncomfortable person. Very oddball. You need to meet her." And then they introduced them to Aubrey Plaza, who a lot of the times, if you've ever seen interviews with Aubrey Plaza, she is strange. She is how she kind of acts in that show. And they wrote her a role to have her in the show. So anyway, that was my little Aubrey Plaza rant. Life After. I still have to make Rob watch Life After Beth. There's a good movie. Well, does anybody else have anything they want to mention about analog horror, Mandela Catalogue stuff? If not, it's we're going to be wrapping up here shortly because I don't have anything else to say. I don't know much about this genre. Like I said, it wasn't overly spooky to me until things started actually moving on screen. Still images don't. Well, I can't say still images don't bother me.
Mhm.
They do, and the tone kind of gets to you every so often. But yeah, like the pitter patter of the footsteps in the complete darkness bothered me. That got to me. I also didn't like it when they'd have the thing talking to you in its weird distorted voice, and it would only be coming through your like left headphone because it's on your left, and then it's on your right, so it's only coming through the right. The spatial sounds um, that actually had me like looking around. That one put a couple chills up my spine, but otherwise, I mean, I thought it was interesting. I thought the story itself was entertaining.
I'm glad you liked it at least.
Yeah.
Or at least
Good
didn't hate it.
recommendation. Yeah, good recommendation.
Yeah, I like it.
I liked it more, and I thought it was scarier than Hocus Pocus 2.
Hocus Pocus 2 wasn't meant to be scary.
Oh, I
Oh.
mean, it was kind of scary at how not great it was. I'm just kidding. Go watch Hocus Pocus 2. It was an alright movie. It's worth seeing at least once, and then probably never again. Well, with that, I guess we'll start doing our sign-off stuff. I guess. Well, first let's talk a little bit, or do at least a little bit of a reminder. Next week's episode is going to be on the No Sleep podcast, which Rob has to pull a couple episodes for us to listen to.
Yep, I downloaded it. I'm just listening to some to see which ones I like.
Now, the average length of those podcast episodes, you said, were roughly what?
It depends. Like the whole episodes are like 2 hours, but each story is like 5 to 20 minutes, depending on like how long the story is, basically. Because they read scary stories, but they act it out with voices and everything.
Right. Okay, so you're gonna pull 2 to 3 episodes of that for us to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're also going to be talking about Crypt TV, which is another YouTube thing. And I have 2 things written here in parentheses. One's called Looksee and one's called Door in the Woods. I believe Door in the Woods was recommended by Devin. Crypt TV itself was recommended by Avalos. So that will be coming up next week. Rob, do you want to promote the Halloween stream for the end of the month?
Sure, I do. So October the 29th, starting at noon and going for 13 hours, is our annual holiday dead stream. We are going to be playing some spooky games, including some new ones this year. Well, I mean, not all of them are spooky. Some of them are just Halloween themed. So we're going to be playing Witch It, which is a game. It's kind of like Prop Hunt, if you've ever played that, where the witches can turn into items, and then there's witch hunters that got to try and find them. Then there's Video Horror Society, which will kind of, I guess, sort of be like this, because it's like old VHS movie monsters coming after you, and you can use like movie monster or movie weapons like lightsabers and stuff to fight them off. It's kind of like Dead by Daylight, but people are able to like fight back and set traps and stuff for the bad guys. Then there's going to be Dead by Daylight itself, which I am not playing, but I will be observing, switching back and forth to give the audience a view of the killer and the and the survivors. And then there's going to be Phasmophobia, which is a ghost hunting game. you take equipment into a house. You got to try and figure out what the ghost is with evidence and stuff, and find certain things, and take pictures. And the ghost can hunt you and kill you. So, and then the last is another new game called Midnight Ghost Hunt, which is there's 2 teams of 4. 4 people are the ghost, 4 people are the hunters, and the ghost hunters. It's a little like Witch It, where the ghost can possess items. But at midnight, the ghost can come out and attack the hunters instead. So the hunters got to try and find them before midnight, or they have to survive after the ghosts are able to come back.
Hell yeah, look at that lineup.
Alrighty. With that, do you have a science corner this week?
Oh, I actually did not prepare one.
Rob,
I know.
my God.
I was doing lots of stuff this week.
What?
Let me see if I can find something really quick.
Do I know anything? I have no
have-
thoughts hit empty.
I have a science fact.
Oh yeah?
Yep, the further north you
These
go,
are
the
always-
colder it gets.
Oh, well.
Did you know that Boston gets 40 to 50 inches of snow a year?
Oh yeah, I learned that.
Yeah, I mean that'd
Did
be
you
like
know
the
that if you keep
average.
Going far enough
Yeah, it
north,
is.
it will get hotter again.
What was that, Devin?
Did you know that if you keep going far enough north, it would just get hotter again?
Well, yeah, because
Eventually.
eventually you're going to start traveling south again.
Eventually, you start. If you keep going
Wait a
north,
minute.
eventually you start going
Wait a minute.
south.
Webby flat earther confirmed?
What do you mean?
What? No, I said if you
I'm
keep
just saying,
going
like,
north,
I
eventually
was
you
just
go south.
laughing. I was just laughing when you said that because technically, like, if Earth was flat, yes, and you kept going north enough, it would never get warm again.
You know,
Well, no, because if you go north enough, eventually you'll be going south, and so when you go south, it gets warm again.
Right, but I'm saying on a flat Earth that wouldn't work.
Did you know
Yeah.
that canonically the world in the Lord of the Rings started off as a flat world?
Well, obviously he drew it on paper.
True facts. No, like it canonically was a flat world. But
As it should be.
I don't know
Chris,
if I don't know if it
Chris,
remains
Chris.
that way as they expanded it, but
We may never know. You may never know.
At what point, disregard north and south, because I feel like there's an obvious point. Once you like go over the cusp of the North Pole or South Pole, you're heading the other direction again, right?
mhm.
Well, at what point, if you're heading east, are you then heading west? Are you just always? Is it always east? Right?
Yeah, it's always
Okay.
east. It wouldn't
Always
be
east.
west again.
Yeah, because there is no pole on either side, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you could end up in the west by going east, but you would still
Right.
be going east.
Right.
Still going east. Boom. Mind's blown. There you go, gang.
Science article that I found that jumps out at me is that they've been growing human nerve cells inside rats. Because
Thorn?
huh?
Thorn?
Well, maybe. Yeah, it'll be a thorn soon. But it's because they can grow human nerve cells in like petri dishes, but they don't function as well. They found that if they put them in like to a living being, they actually like grow like a regular human nerve cell would. Like it starts to function even inside the rats the same way a human brain would.
You know, I actually just read an article involving rats too. I guess technically it would be scientific, but apparently they taught some rats how to play the Doom, the video game. And they were considering putting up a Twitch channel for these rats to play Doom.
I'd watch it.
I'd watch it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Devin, do we have life advice with Devin? It's gonna be hard to top the one you put last week, bud. Last week's was such a good life advice.
And if you don't know what it was, I guess you should go listen to last week's.
Heck
My
yeah.
life advice for this week is: hey, listen, don't let people treat you like the brown stuff in Lucky Charms. You are always the marshmallows.
Wait, what's wrong with the actual cereal part of the Lucky Charms?
Nothing. But
Just
nobody eats it.
marshmallow.
That's one of my favorite parts. Is that one?
I also agree. I actually hate the biting of like fresh marshmallows.
Yeah, I don't like biting into them. I have to like squish them with my tongue to the roof of my mouth.
No, like like soft fresh marshmallows are good. Like roasted marshmallows are good. I don't like biting into like those like dehydrated marshmallows.
Yeah, the ones that are in the cereal themselves.
I cannot. I once bought. You know how they also sell those in like hot
Just
cocoa
mellows?
packets. Some hot.
Just mellows.
You know how
They
hot
actually
cocoa
do-
packets sometimes have the tiny marshmallows inside of them that are
Yeah.
also dehydrated.
Yeah.
Okay, they sell those in a shaker container, and I just pour them into my mouth.
See, I can't do that. I
Yeah.
can't bite into them. Like, it bothers me. Like, I have to like let them dissolve in my mouth or squish them with my tongue to like the roof of my mouth.
Yep. Or just like I can let them dissolve. That's not the worst thing ever. Also,
Yeah.
second piece of life advice: to be sure you're hitting your target, shoot first and call whatever you hit the target.
Ha 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 ha
All
ha.
right. Well, with that being said, we're going to do our sign-offs here. Apple, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I have a YouTube channel, Apple Schloss. Go check it out.
Heck yeah, lots of cool content. What kind of content do you put out there?
Well, not for the viewers. Well, in exactly like an hour and 40 minutes, the Sims videos coming out.
All right. Sims, I know you do some Animal Crossing.
And Dungeons and Dragons, but
Yeah. So go check it out, everybody. Rob, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at confessor_x and on Twitch at twitch.tv/confessorx, where I've been playing Overwatch 2.
And Devin, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at DMP_P. You can find me on Twitch at Mr. D3, and as always, you can find me on eBay, buying all the brown stuff and Lucky Charms.
Yep. As always, you guys can follow me on Twitter at JaxForestWalker, all one word, on Twitch at DMWebby, and on eBay at looking for Devin.
think faster.
Listen. Thank you all for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. And let us know what you think, and maybe some of your favorite analog horror stuff, so I can pass it on to the people who enjoy horror stuff. We love you. Fuck Booster Gold.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck Booster Gold.
Yeah.
Better not be the good kind.
Open
Shit.
to interpretation.
No. Booster Gold sucks.
That's what he said.